I'm Ryan from Collision. In my everyday life, I'm a producer and a mixer, and I thought it'd be kind of a cool idea to take some time and make a few videos to, to show you how we constructed the song Higher Laws. When I say we, I mean myself and David Bottrill, who's the producer that I work with on Collision. And by diving into the Pro Tools session, which is all of the recordings that we made to actually make up the song, you'll actually be able to see some of the philosophies we had and the thinking behind how we constructed the song, the puzzle that makes a song what it is. So let's dive into Pro Tools, and I'll show you how it all came together.
This is the Pro Tools session for Higher Laws. As you can see, the session is actually quite large. Those are the guitars and the synths and then all the vocals. It's not as large as some of the ones that we've had, but it's big. I'm going to break this up into parts where I'm going to talk a bit about the drums and percussion in this video, and then talk about the synths and stuff like that and guitars in the next, and then the vocals after that. But let's just start here on these drums, because that's always a good place to start in terms of the general foundation of a song. If we look, I have all the drums right here. And do you see right through? Do you see it all? By the way you lay. So it's got that kind of like rolling beat happening, which is a lot of sort of the response to the original guitar part that was actually written, that the song was written for. So if you hear it. One of the things that I like doing, and Dave is a really big fan of as well, David Bottrill, who worked on this with me, is to sort of create interesting rhythms in a part, because by playing certain, instruments off of each other. So if you listen to, there's the straight kick here, which is kind of dull and boring, like not much is happening with it, but it's got this secondary kick happening. And when you combine them together, now, I used a ton of different things. I don't remember what I used for everything in terms of like actually generating the sounds, but I can just tell from some of the names, like Reactor from Native Instruments, and these are probably from either Machine or Battery. I use a lot of Native Instruments when it comes to my drums, so that's probably where those came from. Now the snares, same sort of idea. We've got this standard kind of noise snare, which you can feel is a bit wide. It's kind of getting split up a little bit and sent to the sides. There's got these other snares. Now, we tend to layer sounds, as you can kind of see from all of these hits being together, because what you're looking at is you want to add some different textures. So if like I go back to just this kick, and then it's layered with, so it comes together as, and it's subtle, right? And then we layer in a whole bunch of other kicks to give it a bit more punch, as opposed to just kind of low end, which is what these ones have on their own. So the snares, same sort of idea, where when you layer the snares on top of each other, so you can hear these ones down here have more of a that follows through with it, whereas the top one is tighter, right? And sometimes what we'll do is, you can see some of this stuff is grayed out. When we're working, we might decide that we don't need something, or it might come in certain parts and out in other areas, which is happening here with this other snare. right? You hear that kind of longer. It's almost like a clap, actually. And that's just to accent some of the hits, like if you hear it in context. So it's on the every fourth, just to kind of give it a bit of an accent. Now that brings us down to the toms. So the toms come in the second verse, just to kind of like give the song a bit more energy coming out of the first chorus. And they're very sort of 80s retro. They remind me of like a Tears for Fears kind of thing. They're a bit hollow sounding, almost Lindrum or Simmons-ish at least on the floor tom. Actually, it doesn't overly sound like that, does it? Is it this one that sounds? Yeah, like that one. So when you hear them together, it's just kind of got. They're just sort of creating a bit of energy for that second verse, which is always a hard part of production, is actually keeping the energy up after the first chorus. And then this is a room, an artificial room that we made, what gives it that really 80s thing, for sure. Together, and then back in context. Do you know the chords? Now, the other thing that kind of gives it the 80s, that sort of 80s feel, is the drums have a bit of that non-lin, reverb on it, which is the AMS. This one's Universal Audio, just to give it a bit of that kind of wide sort of spread off of the slap of the drums, so you can hear it on the toms and the snare. Okay, so other than that, there's a hi-hat, which the thing, again, in thinking about how you kind of keep the energy going, we have this hi-hat, which isn't in the beginning. Do you see it? Oh. But then it'll come in halfway through the verse. No. So I steady my hands to show which also gives it's because it's not a straight, tut 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 tut. It gives a bit of a rhythm because it's playing against the other the rest of the beat. And you can see that we kind of muted some of them here and there because we just thought that it didn't need it. And then there's a crash going from section to section. Right. And that's layered, pretty standard. But that hi-hat does change in the chorus. And it becomes kind of that disco offbeat thing, just to kind of, again, create a bit of energy in those choruses as opposed to in the verses here. And then finally, in terms of the drums here, we've just got this drum room, which doesn't exist in the beginning. As you can see, it's grayed out, but comes in the second verse, which is just playing off the kick and the snare. And again, it just kind of gives it a bit of variation through the song, so the song can build a little bit from a production standpoint. It's subtle, but it's there. It's just like it just gives it a bit of space, and just a bit of a different texture for that part. So the other thing I want to look at in this video is just the percussion. There are a few things going on here. So first is in the second half of the verse. And it's kind of a glitchy tambourine thing, which is a layer of that and that. Just kind of a swirly tambourine thing. And again, it's just kind of playing it off of the drum, so it makes a more complex rhythm. It's just on the offbeats there. So that happens through the verses in the bridge. But when it comes to this point right here, which is the second chorus, there's a shaker that's happening and a tambourine on the other side, which helps bring up the energy going into chorus 2. Tambourine and shaker, they're such indispensable tools. They just instantly raise the energy of something. Okay, so the other things that are happening here, one is this extra percussion down here, which runs in the second verse, again, to kind of like build some momentum. And it's sort of panning back and forth, left to right, which is like classic David Bottrill. He likes to find motion sort of left to right in the mixes that he does. So it's really subtle. It's there, but it's sort of pulsating and kind of keeping the energy up. And I just love the sound of that. I think it's really, really cool. And then there's this other little bit of percussion that happens in the second pre-chorus, which is a little bit tonal, but it plays off of this one as well. So if we hear them together. Right, so it kind of takes over where that one left off. It combines a little bit in the chorus at the end, but in the end of the bridge, but for the most part they're independent because they are sort of playing off of each other. So that's it for the drums and percussion for Higher Laws. Let's leave it there, and we'll pick up for the rest of the production in the next video.